Hello, and welcome to the Energetics of Codependency podcast. I am your host, Bridgid Berkano, and it is such a pleasure to be talking to you today, out there, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. And I'd also like to give a big special thank you to the musician Nessie Gomes, who so generously allows me to use her song in my podcast. I've been a longtime fan. Her music has accompanied me in many dances and rituals, and I'm so grateful that I can use the song All Related by Nessie Gomes on my podcast. Thank you so much. Just an introduction. I'm Bridgid. Again, I'm a 38-year-old mother of two sons. Let me see, at the time of this podcast, they are 8 and 11 years old. I'm married. We unschool our kids, which is a really free form of homeschooling. Basically, they have the freedom to pursue whatever interests they like. And we, of course, teach them our family culture of helping and doing chores and how we treat each other. But when it comes to their intellect and their academics, they have freedom to do what they like. And I'll be talking more about that later. Let's see. We live in the Pacific Northwest. My ancestors are the Celtic and Baltic peoples. We could go far back. But yeah, that's me. And over the last 10 years, I have done a really deep dive into energy healing work. I became aware of energy and really fascinated with therapy and psychology as a young girl. I could definitely feel the room, and I was always so enamored with music. I love to sing, and I'm realizing now that it's those healing sound waves that I really enjoyed employing. And maybe I'll sing on this podcast another time. But yeah, so this is how I sort of came to be. And I grew up in a very haunted house. I could definitely sense all the different energies there. I found out after I'd moved out that actually every man who owned that house had died in it, including my father. So I could actually get different feelings from the way that different men had died based on how they died. And I won't go into too much detail, but some of them were self-inflicted. But then when I became pregnant with my first son, I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity to stay clear-minded, quit drinking, and really develop my psychic gifts. So I began studying Reiki, and then my studies just blossomed from there. I found more and more teachers, more circles, more workshops and activities, and I apprenticed with a really powerful healer, Nessa Emery's, for years. And now I have a lot of skills and aptitude for this work. So I'm a life coach. I help women make sense of their lives and clear away old patterns that don't serve them and walk in a good way as powerful creators. So that's really my passion and my trade. But this podcast is called The Energetics of Codependency. And I've found that codependency is a great word for what keeps us held back. The way that I like to summarize the definition of codependency is it's a sort of addiction to self-abandonment. And why would we abandon ourselves? Well, depending on how well our needs were met as babies and children, we learn to either stay with ourselves or reach outside of ourselves to get people's attention and meet our needs. After a long time, it can become an actual toxic behavior of trying to get outside of ourselves to control people psychically. That's how I see it. And it happens through different energy centers, and we will just dive all into that. So the goal is to feel our own life force and stay in our own hula hoop, as we say in the recovery community, because really you can only control yourself. And what I like to see is a deep relationship between myself and God, universe, source. And that is what gives me peace and energy. And then I can give to others, and I can make requests. I can say, hey, you autonomous person over here, will you please do this? Or I need this from you. Can you do this? And then they can decide. So that's a healthier version of relating than the codependent behavior of, trying to overgive so that they will give something to us, or, just that frustration of like, why don't they get it? What do I have to do to make them understand? Why does everybody treat me like crap? Why can't I just have something nice? Or no one will ever see me anyways. The people pleasing, the drama. These are all evidence of self-abandonment. Because when we are fully in ourselves, coming home to ourselves, we feel calm. Life might not be perfect, but we know where we stand. We know who we are. We feel supported in our own skin, and we can live our lives. So that's the goal here. And in this podcast, I will be inviting people to my work to work with me in my 90-day container of what I call the 5 petals of a well woman's rose. And these are the elements that I sort of integrate and build together and let all of these petals help each other come into full form of wholeness. And these petals are mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and relational. There are skills to be learned with all of these to bring them into balance. And this podcast is just a deep dive of nerding out exploration in all of the different healing modalities. And we'll hear from clients about their journeys working with me. I'll be bringing a lot of really amazing friends on here. I've developed such an incredible community of healers around me. And I just love people. And I love to learn, and I love to share. So this is where I get to do that. If you ever have any questions about anything I talk about, please send them right over. That's very inspiring for me. So now I can tell you a little bit about my story and where I'm coming from and how I think I developed my codependent traits. We talk about needs being met or not met in childhood and infancy, and of course, we look at the parents and the situations there. My parents were very decent people. They really put a lot of effort into their own growth, providing a stable home. They're both invested in their spiritual well-being and healing their own lives. So I'm so grateful for that. I would say along the way, my dad kind of erred on the side of pushing his spiritual beliefs on me, which was ultimately not conducive to what he wanted, which was for me to be a devout Catholic. I just couldn't hang with that. I mean, I love Jesus, don't get me wrong. And there's a lot of beautiful faith that I got from that, and the ritual and the music, the generosity. There's a lot to be gleaned from that. But it was that I didn't get to choose my spiritual teacher. I didn't think that the priest was a good person, and I just didn't connect with him. And I think that's so important. So that's one way that my spiritual need was not met. And then the things that I was interested in, like astrology, more women-centered magic, that was very much shunned. More earth-based things were not okay. So that that provided a lot of confusion for me, and I felt like I couldn't connect with God if I was to be accepted. So that's a funny, ironic twist there. And then, another thing with my story, the way I came into this self-abandonment, I actually experienced quite a bit of trauma as a toddler. My mom fell ill and she was hospitalized for months and unconscious much of that time with a blood infection. And my family rallied. I was very close with my grandparents. We had people in our community who helped take care of us. My dad, was present and doing everything he could, but of course everyone was terrified. So I was, just soaking all this up as a very sensitive little girl. I had a baby sister who really needed more holding. And so I went without. And I think I actually tried to comfort my baby sister beyond my capabilities as a toddler. So I think that's where I set up some codependent patterns in myself of really overgiving and over nurturing and feeling responsible for others beyond my means without receiving the support that I needed to develop properly. So this translated into feeling overly responsible, overgiving without my needs being supported. And the way that's played out in my adult life, when I was 17, I found myself in a really abusive relationship. I met a guy who was very controlling, which made me feel like, oh, he's paying so much attention to me. This is great. And it ended up that I wasn't allowed to have any other friends. And he was in so much pain that I spent a lot of my energy helping him feel better. And that was the focus. So that's a pattern that I can definitely trace back to that unfortunate situation when my mom was sick when I was little. And this is just kind of how these things work. We have these patterns of energy and relationship that gets implanted, and then we keep playing them out because the universe will give us reminders, give us these situations where we can continue to play out these patterns and they get bigger and scarier, or we can choose to do something different and take a stand for ourselves. The way I ended up getting out of that relationship was, I was in Fresno, California, and I had not talked to my mom for like 6 months. And this guy was freaking out because I said hello to his friend, and I locked myself in a bedroom and he threw a TV down the stairs, and I called my mom and said, okay, I'm ready to be done with this. I got to get out. And so she very skillfully coached me on how to just gather my things, get to the airport, fly home. Thank you, Mom. And then I had work to do. I had a lot of soul searching, and, I went into a series of other relationships that weren't quite so volatile, but I was still self-abandoning. I was still presencing other people's needs over my own. I was still not paying attention to my own personal health and growth. And it's taken me a long time to figure out how to put my needs in the same circle as everyone else's. And I talk about motherhood being my initiation for that, because here we have these innocent, pure little souls who do need so much from us. And motherhood has been an incredible dance of keeping myself healthy so I can take care of them, while also seeing them outside of myself and giving them what they need to be free and to honor their own autonomy. And with kids, they keep growing, and it changes every day what they need. You know, the nap schedule changes, and then they like this different food, and then they, they're interested in Transformers, but no, now they hate Transformers. Now it's something else. You know, it just keeps going on. And then there's the juggling with a partner, who does what. And gosh, we're still healing ourselves. And then there's so much inner child healing that goes along with raising kids, because you see yourself reflected back at you, but it's not really you. It's this new, unique person, but they're just reminding you of when you were that age. And I could go on, but this is all the stuff that we're going to talk about. And again, the 5 petals of the well woman's rose. So I really bring it all back to that. So, this stuff, it's like, it's not set up because of a dysfunctional family necessarily, although like my family was probably pretty dysfunctional too, which my parents will totally admit. And we talk about it, and I have a great relationship with my mom. Unfortunately, my dad died when I was 15, which also caused some emotional injuries there. He died from cancer, from Agent Orange from the Vietnam War, which, a veteran with PTSD raising me, that also probably didn't meet my needs as much as would have been perfect and ideal. But hey, this is life, this is the world, and the healing path is meant to help you make sense of and live in the world. And all of the pain and loss that I experienced, all of the feeling unseen, all of the ways that I've numbed and coped and, tried to control things to make myself more comfortable. This is all amazing education, and this is the journey of a healer. And so I really don't regret any of it. I don't wish any of it was different. I'm just so happy that I get to share it with you, and that I've learned tools to comfort myself, and I've learned ways to speak my truth to people who matter. And I've learned confidence in my spirituality, and I've learned to trust myself, and I've learned to open my heart to people who hurt me and forgive. And I've learned to mind my own business. That's a good one. Letting other people be free to make their own choices. That's a very big gift of healing from codependency. So go ahead and visit my website, bridgidberkano.com, to learn more about my coaching. And I'll just wrap this up by thanking my husband, Joe Frothingham, for producing this podcast for me, so I don't have to spend hours and hours chopping it up. I'm really grateful for the support, honey. Thank you. And with that, I will sign off. I'll see you next time.